Kedarkenu Bakodesh, I'd like to start with a beracha. Klal Yisrael tonight is in Sarot. We're about to go to war. Actually, I believe it even started already. And therefore, we could use all the berachot we can. Listen well to beracha, because it says it all. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Sha'akol Nihiyah B'dvaro. The Torah tells us in biblical times, when Klal Yisrael would go out to a war, the Kohen HaMashiach would come out and stand in front of the troops, and he would give him a firing dirasha, a dirasha of fiery emunah bitachon, and he would announce that anyone that's thinking twice, he thinks to himself, I just got engaged, oy vavoy, am I going to come home? I just built a house. Oy vavoy, am I going to end up living in that house? I just planted a vineyard. Oy vavoy, am I going to see the harvest of my fields? Says the Kohen HaMashiach, go home. Go home. Because to go to war, Klal Yisrael, we understand that the war is won before we enter the battlefield. We win the war because we place our emunah and bitachon in Hashem. The moment we have Borei Olam, we have everything. But if we think that it's our kochot, and it's our IDF, and it's our planes, and it's our superiority, that's the moment that we run into difficulties, chas v'shalom. And I want to tell you, I saw tonight an inspiring clip that came from Eretz Yisrael. The very scene that I'm describing to you, that the Torah tells us about, back in the day, when Klal Yisrael was in biblical times. We actually watched it. We saw this clip of thousands of Israeli soldiers being brought together in this big, it looked like a hangar, a huge style type of a warehouse, and they were singing, and they were dancing, and they were telling each other Hizuk, and they were saying, Borei Olam, we're relying on you, and we know it's you. Anachnu ma'aminim b'nei ma'aminim, they were jumping up and down. How many of these guys were religious or not? Who cares? It makes no difference. You know where their hearts were? You know who they're depending on? They realized, regardless of their background, regardless of their last name, regardless of whatever neighborhood, city that they came from, they know one thing. Al tityaesh me'arahamim. En lanu al mi lishaen el avinu shebashamayim. They're going in with the knowledge that we are biyadenu shel Abba. That's it. And when we go in with that knowledge, that we're in biyadenu shel Abba, Hashem, I am in your hands, and you're the one that's going to fight for me. That's the moment that David takes down Goliath. That's the moment that David HaMelech was able to take down Goliath. But what do you mean? Look at the giant. Look how big he is. Look how tall he is. Look how powerful he is. Look how scary he looks. That was mamash the story. He was taunting Klal Yisrael. Goliath. He was taunting Klal Yisrael. He was baiting us. He was throwing slurs and curses at the Jewish people. He was degrading the Melech Yisrael, Shaul HaMelech. He was taunting us to pick a fight. And we were scared. We were scared. Do you know that the Torah says the first step of war, when Klal Yisrael goes to war, Milchemet Mitzvah. Let's clarify here something. There are two types of war. There's a Milchemet Reshut, Milchemet Mitzvah. Milchemet Reshut was like in the days of David. They would go, they would take over a country, annex the country under the rule of the kingdom in order to be able to get taxes, in order to be able to get benefits from that country under our rule. But that's a Milchemet Reshut. That's not what we're talking about tonight. Tonight in Eretz Yisrael, a Milchemet Mitzvah started. I want everyone to know this. When we go out to war to defend Klal Yisrael and the Gvulim of Eretz Yisrael, it's Begeder Milchemet Mitzvah. Every one of those guys, doesn't matter what their level of religion is, doesn't matter if they're Shomer Shabbat or not, you should know that they're going out to fight for Klal Yisrael. They're going out to fight for Eretz Yisrael. They're going out to protect Klal Yisrael. And they know that as they're going out, it's not them that's protecting Klal Yisrael, but it's Borei Olam. And if you saw those clips tonight, you would understand exactly what I'm talking about. I thought that I was looking at that clip, I went into this time machine that took me back a few thousand years, because there was one guy in an Israeli army suit, up on top, and he was pumping them. He was telling them, you have nothing to fear. Hashem is with you. Klal Yisrael. I was like, wow, this guy's giving a dirasha, unbelievable. He was telling the guys, we have no one to rely on, we have Hashem, we're going to win. He was giving them incredible emunah, bitachon, chizuk, and they were dancing together, and the music was going, and they were firing them up. You know why? Because the pasuk says, Al yerach levavchem. Al yerach levavchem. If you're going to go out to war, there's an isur deoraita. It's a lav in the Torah. You are not allowed to be scared. The Rambam brings this in Perek Tet, in Hilchot Melachim. The Rambam writes that when Klal Yisrael went out to war, if anyone had second guessing, anyone had second thoughts, they started to think about the house, their children, their wife, their business. Says the Rambam, they sent them home. And that person was mivatel, the mitzvah deoraita of emunah bitachon, because of al yerach lebabchem. You're not allowed to be scared. But what do you mean? It's so scary. War. War is not a joke. War is casualties. Says the Rambam, oh, that's what you're worried about. Says the Rambam in the next line, because if a Jew knows that he's going to absolutely hold on to emunah bitachon, and he's not going to have any pachad, says the Rambam, he could be sure that he will be saved, he will be protected, and he will come home alive. You have to see this Rambam. The Rambam is in Perek Tet, in Hilchot Melachim. Take a look at the Rambam. First he tells you about the guy that was scared, and the bitul eseh that he was mevatel. And then he tells you about the guy that's not scared, and he is boteach b'Hashem, and he goes out to fight with the confidence that it's not him that's fighting, it's Hashem that's fighting. Says the Rambam, that guy is guaranteed to come home. Amazing. But how do you do that? How do you fight such simple human emotions? How do you do that? Do you know how difficult that is? To be sholet on your emotions to such an extent that it becomes a lav in Torah that you're not allowed to feel fear. But I'm going out to a battlefield. Could you blame me? I have a wife and children. Could you blame me? I'm going up against a scary enemy. Could you blame me? Over 1,000 rockets. How could you blame me? Says the Rambam, I don't blame you when you go out to war. I blame you the way you entered the war. How are you going into this war? What are you thinking? You're thinking that you're fighting? You're thinking that it's you that's going to go out and beat the enemy? It's your stealth. It's your technique. It's your shot. What do you think? You think you're an elite? Tzanchanim? You think you're a paratrooper? It's me. If you think of that, then don't go out. Don't go out to war. Because eventually war is going to scare you one way or another. And the moment you feel fear, you forget Hashem. But if you could train now, before you go out, that it's not me. I'm not fighting. It has nothing to do with me. I'm just going out to camouflage the miracle that God's going to do for the Jewish people in this war. But Hashem doesn't want to do open miracles. So He just needs people as leg soldiers, foot soldiers, to go out and make it look like, on a normal, natural way, that somebody is fighting, so that He can come and do the miracles that He's going to do for His people. Ki lo yitosh Hashem amo, Yaakov, chevel nahalato. I will never let go of you. I'm attached to you by the chevel. I'm attached to you by a rope. I'll never let go of you. I'll never forsake you. I'll never abandon you. But that's only if you're thinking about me. That's only if you don't abandon me. You know the way a mitzvah tance goes? There's two ends to the rope. It has to be held on two ends. If one guy let goes one side, no one's attached anymore. Hashem says, as long as you're holding on to the rope attached to me, I will never let go of the rope that's attached to you. Never. And this is what the Rambam is telling us. What is your mindset going into war? If you're thinking that Hashem is going to fight for you, Hashem yilachem lachem ve'atem taharishun. Don't talk anything into yourself that it's this commando, it's this army, it's that kochot. Says Borei Olam, it's me. And if you know it's me, you have nothing to fear. But what do you mean? The giant is so big. But think about it. That was the point. David HaMelech comes to King Shaul. And he says, Shaul HaMelech, I'm going out to fight the giant. And Shaul HaMelech, he looks at this boy. Chazal says, 12 years old, 15 years old. He's a boy. Shaul HaMelech says, you're going to fight the giant. A nest took place that the armor of King Shaul, Melech Shaul, was very tall. The Gemara describes him that he was a man that was head and shoulders over the rest. His armor must have been huge. And somehow or other a miracle took place and the armor shrunk down and fit exactly the size of the young boy David. From that moment, Shaul saw, oh, you didn't mention that Hashem is with you. Now I see Hashem is with you. Hashem is with you? You don't need no armor. You don't need strength. You don't need age. You don't need wisdom. You don't need strategy. You don't need nothing. You just need to walk out there and make it look somewhat natural, somewhat normal, just to take it out of begeder-ness. So that you opened up now, Borei Olam, to be able to do Nisim v'Niflaot behind the scenes, as He done in all our wars in Klal Yisrael, up to date, while still keeping it within the realm of nature. That's what happened. David HaMelech walked out on that battlefield and he didn't have 1 ounce of thought that it was him that was fighting. He knew, without a question, without a shadow of a doubt, that the same way Hashem helped him rip the lion's mouth open, the same way Hashem helped him to rip the bear apart, and all the other amazing stories, David HaMelech as a shepherd, he also understood that this giant is no different. The way I wasn't able to fight the lion, but Hashem did. The way I wasn't able to fight the animals, but Hashem did, is the way I can't fight this giant, but Hashem will. And that's exactly what took place. David HaMelech walks out and makes it look natural. But in his heart he understands. Ein lanu al mili sha'en el avinu shebashamayim ani biyadayim shel Abba. This is what bitachon means. I am in your hands, Hashem. I surrender my control. I surrender my talent. I surrender my intellect. I surrender my wit to you, Hashem. I am in your hands. I'm relying on you 100%. And now I'm ready to go out and make it look like that I'm fighting so that you can fight for me. That was the story of David HaMelech. That was the moment that everything supernatural was emplaced and hidden in the natural. So here I see a boy standing on a battlefield, no armor, no sword, no bow and arrow. Where are your weapons? Goliath began to laugh. He was laughing. The Philistines, the Philistines were laughing. This is who you bring us. This is who you send us. This is the best you got. A little boy. It was a joke. Yes, it is a joke. But that's the whole point. It's a ruse. It's a camouflage. It is a big joke. All you need to do is just play along with the joke. Walk out there and make believe it looks like you're fighting. Because at the end of the day, even the guy that thinks he is fighting, it's a joke. It's only Borei Olam. Nobody else. And sure enough, David takes a slingshot, throws the rock, and the rock comes right up to the head of Goliath. And the rock says to the metal of his helmet, "Open up! Let me through! I was thrown by the future king of Israel, David." The Melech commands to open up. And the metal says to the rock, "But now he's not king." And if that's the case, I don't have to listen to him. Because now we're still under the kingdom of Shaul HaMelech. So the rock says to the metal, "If that's the case, I have to make you a deal." Says the rock to the metal, "My place, it has a very special mitzvah." In those years, they were doing Brit Milah with a sharpened rock. It was like the end of those spears that had a rock head sharpened to a point. And that's the way they would cut off the orla. That's the way they would do Brit Milah up until that point. Says the rock to the metal, "If you open up and you let me through, I'll trade you this Kiddush Hashem for the fact that you'll take my place in the mitzvah of Brit Milah. And from now on, the Milah will not be done with a rock anymore. It'll be done with a blade. It'll be done with metal." And the rock, the metal hears this. "I'll take the deal." The metal of the helmet opens up. The rock passes through and goes right into the temple and up to the brain of Goliath, bringing the giant down. Ding dong, the witch is dead. And here David HaMelech, the young David, runs up. He had difficulty unsheathing his sword. His sword was the size of a... That in itself was a ness. There's a whole story behind how did David figure out how to pull the sword out. He asked, "Does anyone know how to unleash this sword?" David raises up the sword and decapitates the Goliath. And he saves Klal Yisrael. And he screams, "Hodu Lashem ki tov, ki le'olam chazdo." It had nothing to do with me. Al yerach lebabchem. You know when your heart won't fear? When your heart is set straight. When your heart understands who's fighting and who is only going through the motions to take it out from begeder nes to make it look natural. we, Klal Yisrael, have to realize that the ones out on the field, the ones going into battle, they're doing the ruse. They're making it look like. They're making it look like that they're fighting. But we're all fighting. There's no such thing. Klal Yisrael, there's those on the front lines and there's those in the back end. It's similar to a fire. The fire engine runs out and goes to the house that's on fire. The firemen take the hose and they hook it up to the fire pump. They hook it up to the pump on the street. But if the guy back in the waterworks company doesn't have the faucet on, there is no water running in the pipes to be able to come out the hoses of the firemen to be able to put out the fire. Every fire, every war, you have men on the front end and you have men on the back end. You need the guys in the back pumping the water, and you need the guys in the front holding the hose to put out the fire. The soldiers are the firemen. They're out on the battlefield running into the fire. But where do they get the water from to win? Where does the water come from to put out the problem, to put out the fire, to win? Where do they get it from? They get it from Klal Yisrael, who's standing in the back end. And they are pumping through their pipes Torah, hours of learning, pages of Tehillim, pages and pages of learning. Zchuyot, Chesed, Tzedakah. We're pumping them so that they may be able to be Zocheh, to see the Yeshuot Hashem and put out the fire. Don't think for 1 minute it's them out there and we're tucked at home watching cute little clips, wondering what's going on. Give us an update. What's happening? We're all at war. Oseh shalom bimromav. Hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Did we ever think what we said at the end of every Amidah? Hashem, Oseh Shalom Bimromav. You're the one that makes Shalom in the heavens. Who? The one that makes Shalom in the heavens. Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu. Please, make Shalom to us as well. Says Chazal, you know what this means? This means that every war that breaks out, first breaks out in Shamayim. The Sar of one nation, the angel of one nation, he goes and he begins to fight with the Sar and the angel of another nation. So the war already begins in Shamayim. And these two angels are fighting in heaven. And because these two angels representing two nations are fighting in Shamayim, Memela, that trickles down to earth. And those represented two nations begin to quarrel, and the fight takes off on the next day. What happens in Shamayim the night before, so to speak, is on the headlines of the papers down here the next day. But don't forget where it starts. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. The only way to stop the war down here is to first to make Oseh shalom bimromav, is to first bring shalom in Shamayim. So although, yeah, you're watching the war, and as it plays out down on earth, but the fire is not down here, the fire is up there. What are you doing to fight the war in heaven? What happens down here is only an aftermath. It's only a memela, it's a result. But go straight to the core of the problem. Go straight to the core of the issue. The war itself is fought now in Shamayim. And Shamayim is waiting. Klal Yisrael, hita'oreru, wake up. Wake up. Wake up. This isn't a war that's held only to men in suits of uniforms. This is every Jew is being called up, so to speak, from the ranks. Every Jew is being called up to fight. Every Jew is being called up for service. Pick up a book and start firing. Pick up a book and start firing. Hit the battlefield of heaven so that we can win the war in Shamayim. And then Memela, the war in Aretz, follows through with a win as well. Make no mistake, that's the way Klal Yisrael fights wars. We know where the core is. We know exactly what we're up against. Rabotai, now's the time for the tefillot. Now's the time for the tehillim. Now's the time for the kabbalot. There's no such thing as Klal Yisrael in milchama, in war, and a Jew doesn't take upon himself something small just to be able to bring a Yeshua. You see, because when you take that Kabbalah on yourself, you take upon yourself, I'm going to start putting on tefillin every day. You take upon yourself, I'm going to learn 5 minutes extra today. You take upon yourself, I'm going to start learning the laws of Shmirat HaLashon again. To get rid of the Sinat Hinam, which is probably the cause of all this in the first place. You take upon yourself that I'm going to start keeping and careful with Shabbat. When you take upon yourself the Kabbalah that you're taking, you're fighting. You know how? Because when you take on that Kabbalah, you create an angel. That angel is a soldier that you're sending up in the ranks to the war in heaven. Throw me a soldier. Throw me a soldier. Throw me an angel. Who are you sending to battle in Shamayim that's representing you? Throw me a soldier. Give us another fighter. Give us another zchut. Give us another malach. Give us that sometimes that one soldier can be the difference. It's his shot that can take out the other side. Who knows? Throw us another soldier. Take another Kabbalah on. Send another malach to Shamayim. Let's end this once and for all. Klal Yisrael is going to win. We're coming with a har of Torah. We're coming with a har of Zchuyot. We're coming with Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. We're coming with a punch. We're coming with Borei Olam. We're Boteach B'Hashem. We know, Anachnu biyadayim shel Abba. We're relying on Him 100%. We're going to win 100%. But we need everyone to be mishtatef. Because people say, but Rabbi, but there's always casualties. And there already has been casualties. Yes. And that's why, to make sure we ignite this Rambam, the Rambam said that when you go out to war, when you know that you're boteach 100% in Hashem, and you're not scared, and He's going out to fight, and you're just walking out for the legwork, says the Rambam, you will come back alive. So let's go out and fight. Unbelievable. Mamash, we hit tonight. The foot soldiers are going out into Aza. Do you know that Aza has so much history? It was a makom that in the soil, it was already grandfathered. From the times all the way back. We're talking back to the Ra'avad. We're talking back to the times, unbelievable, of the Arizal. That Aza, already there was a whole turmoil, a whole to-do in regard to Aza and its relationship to Eretz Yisrael. In regard to Aza and Trumot and Ma'asarot. Aza was always a thorn in Eretz Yisrael's side. The hatred that came from Aza was for long history. The hatred that came from Lud, long history. These very same places. You would think, my gosh, 2021, the same names are coming back of 2,000 years ago? Yes, the same names, the same thorns are coming back from 2,000 years ago. Aza, Lud, these were always places that were always a thorn to Klal Yisrael. The hatred there. There's no greater sigula. En sigula gdola mizu. En od milivado. That's it. Hashem, we're in your hands. We're relying on you to fight. And we know you're going to take care of us, and we will definitely win. There's no question. Ki lo yitosh Hashem amo. Mamash Yaakov chevel nahalato. He's not going to leave us. It's unbelievable. Ay, ay, ay. But there's something here. There's something here that Hashem wants. To fight a war. We've been fighting so many. This war came about in a very unnatural way. It escalated in a matter of a day, 2 or 3, which seemed out of the blue. Something's going on. Something right after Meron. Something's funny. How much is happening between Lag BaOmer, Matan Torah, talking about Kolot Ubrakim. This is a new level. Over 1,000 rockets. Tel Aviv. You're talking about main heartland of Israel. Tel Aviv, Holon, Akko. I mean, this is mamash main. Something here going on. Sometimes, Borei Olam decides to do things by surprise in order to bring about a surprising outcome. We're davening that the surprising outcome that's going to come out of this is going to be nothing less than the Geula Krova. We're davening. And we're hoping. And we're hoping that Matan Torah is going to be this year something unbelievably special. Something out of the ordinary. I want to tell you a ma'aseh. Happened many years ago. I remember this vividly. At that time I was learning in Eretz Yisrael, in Yeshivat Itri. Yerushalayim HaKodesh. At that time, something that a Bachur would never forget, this is over 20 some odd years ago. I was still single in yeshiva, and the Desert Storm War broke out. And Saddam Hussein, if you remember him, may he rest in pieces, he was shooting the missiles into Eretz Yisrael. As an American boy, I had no idea what was going on. To live through something like that, you know, you're coming from Brooklyn, you don't know what a siren is outside of Friday afternoon, the siren before candle lighting on Shabbat. But this siren is much eerier than that. The siren here goes one straight, eh. Over there it goes up and down, and it gets you. It gets in your bones. To hear that first hazakah as an American kid, I remember my heart dropped like, oh my gosh, sounds like an air raid. What's going on? And then all the Israelis are running down the hallways of the dormitory. Quickly, quickly, he's telling me, you know, get inside. Put on your gas masks. That was then, because they thought Saddam was shooting chemical warfare into Israel. To us, Americans, it was a joke. We didn't know what to make of it. We were young. We were foolish. Right before January 15th, right before the war began, the Israeli government sent down a guy from the army to come to the yeshiva and to teach the kvutza of Americans how to put on a gas mask, how to put the gas mask together, how to put the filter on the front, how to unleash the filter and get it active, how to adjust, what to do, what not to do, basically to give a demonstration for gas masks. So we all came together. I remember it was Bein Hasdarim, right after lunch. They gathered us together outside the yeshiva in this big grassy area. They handed us this box. They told us to open up the box and take out the gas masks. And they started giving us this whole demonstration. And we were taught piece by piece how to assemble and then take apart the gas mask. How to fix the filter if it breaks. How to replace the filter with another filter. But to us, we were kids. To us it was a joke. So you know what guys do. They put on the gas mask. One guy lays down on the floor like this. The other guy starts putting his hand on it. They're taking pictures, sending it home. We thought it was funny. We were 17, 18 years old. But the guy that they sent down from the IDF, he did not think it was funny at all. He says, "You think this is about picture? You think this is about picture?" I mean, the guy lost it on us. He understood what's going to happen and what's coming. We had no clue. We had about 17 guys all laying out on our backs in the grass with the gas masks on, taking aerial photos, sending it home to our parents, thinking it was the funniest thing in the world. It was like a picture from a movie, you know what? And these guys looked at us. Amerikaim, Meshugaim, these guys are crazy. What are they doing? What, it's a joke? We had no idea what war was. We had no idea. But then that first siren, oh, I remember it. Oh, do I remember that first siren? My heart, I'm telling you. We ran to the rooms. We sealed up the Cheder Atum. We sealed up the rooms so that there shouldn't be any air coming in case there was chemical. We put on the gas mask. We pull out the Tehillim. We started shuckling the Tehillim. We were told to put out the lights. Till today I'm not sure why, but we put out the lights. We were told to bring down the Trissim. You remember the Tris in Israel? Everyone loves the Tris. It's the best thing to sleep in the afternoon with. We brought down the Trissim. The Tris comes down. It's like a wall up against the glass. In case the missile hits, the glass goes everywhere. The Tris saves you from the glass shatter. I mean, this was an experience for an 18-year-old American kid who grew up with cartoons. I mean, this is not a joke. This is the real deal. I'll never forget. During that war, I was on an Eged bus coming back to yeshiva, and the sirens went off. And I didn't know that there's this law that in the middle of Hazakah, middle of the sirens, the buses by law are required to stop, no matter where they are. They have to pull over, stop. They cannot move until the siren goes off. I want to tell you something. I was on one of those buses. I was on the bus, on the way back to Itri. The siren starts going. Everyone starts screaming, Nahag, Nahag, Azakah. Like you can't hear it. He pulls the bus over. We were right in front of the King Solomon Hotel. I'll never forget it. He pulls over the bus, and he sits. And he doesn't move. And the siren's going up and down. And he announces to everybody, the chok is, the rule is, the law is, I cannot move until the siren is done. So we're all sitting there in the bus. Now what do you think happened on that bus? People start talking to each other. Are you okay? Are you alright? You see that there's an elderly lady in the back. They walked up to her. Are you okay? They said there was an old man in the front. Are you breathing okay? Are you alright? It was amazing. A bus of randoms that came together with absolutely zero interest in the world, of every type of walk of life of Israeli was on that bus. From Haredi to the complete left, to right, backwards and upside down. You had every type of Jew, literally, on that bus. And when we first came on the bus, not even to say a hello to another person, not even to make eye contact to that person. But the minute that siren went off, the minute we were all trapped together on that bus, suddenly everyone became family. Ashrecha Yisrael, mi chamocha, am nosha bashem. This was something to see. Everyone's asking the other one, are you okay? Don't worry, it's going to be over soon. Relax. They started talking to the little kids. Don't worry, it's nothing. It'll be finished. Look, your mommy's here. They gave one kid a lollipop. They started making jokes just to keep the matzav ruach calm. But little by little, everyone started to unify, and it became a one cohesive unit. It was amazing. It's amazing what that siren can do. After 15 minutes, the siren finally goes off, and the minute that siren goes off, everyone jumps at it as soon as they start cheering. Ah! It was like a family. Would you believe me? If from that point when the bus driver drives out, and he starts going back on towards Derech Hebron, where this drive takes you, where this route takes you. Every stop that another person got off, everyone said to him, Laila Tov, Tia Bari, you should be okay. I was like, everyone's best friends. Best friends. Now, before that siren, if somebody would get off, they would give him a dirty look like, what's taking you so long? How come you're keeping the doors open? How come you're being ma'akevas? You're delaying us. Yalla, oof, go, get out of here already. All of a sudden now, every person that got off after that siren, they got this family escort down the steps, and everyone's giving him, be well, hazab, be good, everything should be good with you, and they give him berachot. Hashem wants something. Maybe it's not the siren that he wants. Maybe it's not the war he wants. But maybe it's the result. What happened to my kids? What happened to you, Klal Yisrael? How many years did we suffer with this sinat chinam? How much does Borei Olam have to do to keep bringing us and navigating us back to each other? How much does he have to do? You want to hear an amazing story? In Desert Storm at that time. And the reason why I'm telling you these stories is because that was the experiences I had when Israel went to war, similar to where they're entering now. With the rockets, with the sirens, with the country on the brink. It's very different when you're there and you experience it. Tonight I told my wife, I'm going. After I saw that clip of the soldiers dancing and hyping them up and firing them up, I said, Naomi, I belong there. I belong there. And she says, you belong right here. I said, no, I belong there. I'm going there. I got my first shot. I'm waiting for the second shot. I'm out of here. I'm going there. She says, you're not going anywhere. El Al just canceled all their flights. I said, what do you mean? I just heard a bunch of Hatzalah guys just went today to Eretz Yisrael to help out. She says, yeah, you're not Hatzalah. I said, I'll learn. I'll do whatever I gotta do. I'm going. I belong there with them. Those are my people. There's where we're needed. Let's go. Let me tell you this story. So it was the middle of Desert Storm. And there was a bus that was coming back from Tel Aviv on its way up to Yerushalayim. As he's coming up to Yerushalayim, a siren goes off. Now, this bus was on a highway. Very hard to pull over on the side of a highway, especially if you know the highway that leads into Knisat Ha'ir of Yerushalayim. It's very hilly, very windy, and very mesukan. So what did this driver do? He pulled off in the exit right before Knisat Ha'ir, which is the area of Mivaseret Zion over there. He pulled up into that exit. He actually entered Mivaseret Zion, and he pulled up right in front of the first government building, the Iriyah. He said, Rabotai, Chevre, let's go, everyone off. They opened the doors. Everyone went inside the building, the area, because this was the beginning of the war, when they still didn't know what to wait for, because they were worried about chemical warfare, and all these people on the bus did not have their gas masks, so you don't want to keep them on the bus. So he was mishachrer everyone. He said, everybody off the bus, into the area, go downstairs. Every Israeli government building is built, very interesting, with a bunker in the basement. It's like part of the schematics of every government building. So they go downstairs, and sure enough, the door was closing. Everyone from the bus comes in, and as they're about to come in, a few random people who were driving in their cars on the highway as well, when the sirens went off, they followed the bus off into Mivaseret Zion. They also pulled up in front of the area. They also jumped out of their cars and came downstairs to the basement, and they went into this cheder atum, to the sealed off room, together with all the people from the passengers of the bus. The room is dark. The last guy comes pushing the door in, he gets in, they close it behind him, and they start sealing it up with all the sealing that they used to do. They used to seal it up, the doors, that there should be no chemicals coming through. And they all sat there together in silence. No one could really see each other much. It was a dark basement. And then one guy turns around and leans over, and he elbows right up against another guy that was sitting next to him on the floor. One guy from the car sitting next to another guy from the bus. And then all of a sudden everybody in the basement hears, Tzvika, ze ata? Chaim, ze ata? Walla, Tzvika, mata, ech, ma. These two guys, they jump up, they make sure it's each other in the dark, they realize that it is each other, they jump on each other, they hug each other, and they start crying. Now, this is wild. It was enough to be on the bus, sirens, off the highway, Vasenet Zion, into the building's basement, leaning and sealing up the walls. I mean, wow. But now, wow, it comes with entertainment. Two guys, random, one guy from the bus, the other guy from a car, happened to have got off the highway at the same time, up to the same building at the same time, down to the same sealed room, and the room was sealed off with them locked inside, leaning up against each other. He could have sat on one side of the room. The other guy could have sat on the other side of the room. In the dark, they would never have seen each other. But somehow or other, they ended up shoulder to shoulder to turn around and even in the dark, look each other in the eye and say, Tzvika, Chaim, ma ta oseh po? Ech ze kara? How did this happen? And they start crying on each other's shoulders. After a few minutes, they calm down and they come to, and people start to inquire, and they start asking, what happened? Who is he? Who are you? What happened here? And they both break down crying. And they say 20 years ago, these two brothers had a business together. And somehow or other, family members got involved. And suddenly two brothers, who were brothers, best friends for life, who built a successful business, but little by little, the wives got involved, family members got involved. People started giving opinions. How come he's drawing out more than you're drawing? How come he just built a new house and you didn't build a house? How come he's driving, you're not driving? How come? Little by little, their buttons were pushed. And sure enough, two brothers that grew up as best friends their entire life, from cradle and up, were ripped apart in such hatred that they divided the business and they never spoke to each other again. Their kids got married. Their children grew up. And nobody went to each other's smachot. And nobody would look at each other. Not chagim, not yamim tovim, not high holidays. Their children's weddings, their children's bar mitzvahs. And this brother would never look at the other brother's face. These two families would never attend anything ripped apart until the siren came. And Borei Olam put one brother on a bus. Unbelievable. And the other brother in a car. And had them both, so to speak, somehow coincidentally driving together on the same highway as they're coming up to the exit of Vasenet Zion. And just then Borei Olam pulls the siren. And he has both of them drive off onto the exit, coming up to that building and locking these two brothers shoulder by shoulder together in a sealed off room, and says, Borei Olam, enough. Every time you hear the siren go off, it's Borei Olam's voice, Kivyachol, that's screaming, enough. Enough, Klal Yisrael. Enough. Let's go home. We can end this. We can end this. What do I have to do to bring you together? How much do I have to do to bring you together? What do I have to do? Mamish, I have to start wars. I have to bring in thousands of rockets. I have to make hazakot, just to tie the two of you together and make you look at each other whether you like it or not. Wow. It's not about the siren of the war. It's about the amazing result. Many times, Hashem puts people in positions that look very scary, just in order to save them, to bring back a result that was unimaginable. How does he bring out the wow result? How does he move people? How does he blow you away? Well, first he has to bring out the drama. First he has to bring out the ba'aya. First, chas v'shalom, he has to make things look very dark and difficult, very dreary, very scary. But the whole thing was only a springboard, a hechatimsa, just to save you, so that when he saves you, he puts into your head, I'm the only one that can help you, I'm the only one that can save you, and I want from you something, I want the result, I want you back together again. Start talking to your brother. Start talking to your sister. Life is too short. Go back and bring them home together. This is what he is crying out. When you hear those sirens, kivyachol, that's the voice of Shamayim. It's today's bat kol that screams, no! How much more? What is it going to take to put you together? You hear it's no, enough already. Come back together so we can end this. Reb Chaim Volozhiner, the great Reb Chaim Volozhiner, the one that taught us the sigula of all sigulot, and sigula gidola mizu, he writes in Nefesh HaChaim, the famous sigula from En Od Milivado, that if a Jew closes his eyes and he says Nachamal again and again, En Od Milivado, no one's in control but Hashem. Only Hashem is in control. Only Hashem could save. Only Hashem could help. I'm in Hashem's hands. I'm avatul myself completely to only Borei Olam. I'm relying on you, Abba. Ani somech alecha, rak alecha. Ani boteach bicha, Abba. Ani batuach that you're going to help me. Ani batuach that you're saving me. Says the Nefesh HaChaim, this is the greatest sigula that a Jew has, to be saved from any problem he has. Because then he becomes untouchable. Because then he places himself biyadayim shel Abba, and no one's hands can come near him. No one. No one. Nobody. Reb Chaim Volozhiner himself was traveling to the Gaon, and he was going through a forest. And these bandits, they jumped him. They took everything. They took his clothing. They took his purse. They took his money. They took everything he had on him. They tied him to the tree. And they told him, we're going out for one more robbery. And that's going to be the last robbery for the day. We're going to come back and we're going to kill you. And they leave him with nothing. Tied to the tree. Chaim Volozhiner, we're talking about the Talmud Muvak of the Vilna Gaon. Chaim closes his eyes and he starts saying, Hashem, these robbers, they have no strength. They're nothing. En od milvado. En od milvado. You sent the robbers. You took the money. You did everything. Thank you. Thank you for everything you did. I'm in your hands. Everything is from you. The robbers are from you. Everything is from you. I'm here. And you can save me. And they can't touch me. And I'm relying only on you to save me. En od milvado. No chabal. En od milvado. Again. And he did it again and again. A few minutes later, the bandits come back. And they're coming now and they're good on their word to kill him. And just then, as they're about to do what they wanted to do, another group of bandits come running from the other side of the forest. And they ambush this group of bandits. And they take all the booty and all the spoils and all the money and all the genevot. And, it's easy. When Hagoyniv men Haganev, you know what I mean? You're able to take the whole day's works load. Instead of knocking off one guy, you knock off the group. You get 10 guys. They knocked off the whole group. They killed them all. They come back now, they see Reb Chaim Volozhin, an old rabbi, tied to the tree. They cut him loose. They see there's nothing on him. They say to him, what was yours? He says, that arnak is mine. Those clothing are mine. They said, we have enough from our spoils. Take what you have and go. Reb Chaim went, he took his, exactly the way he came, is exactly the way he left. Says Reb Chaim, sometimes the Ribbono Shel Olam brings about the robber in order to bring out the result. Sometimes I got to bring out the robber in order to show you that I am the only one that can save you from robbers. So the robber was brought l'shem to be mochiach to you that the only one that can save you from robbers is Hashem. The enemy is brought to your door so that Hashem can be mochiach that the only one that can save you from the enemy is Hashem. I brought him to you to show you that I'm the only one that can save you from it. The tzarot that are brought to people is to put the person in a situation that they should come to the final realization that Hashem is the only one that can save me. And Hashem says, that's right. That's why I put you there in the first place. Like once a guy came to, I forgot who it was, I think it was one of the rabbis from Eshat Torah, I'm not exactly sure who it was, I think so. And he said to him, a miracle, I found God. What happened? He was driving and his car went off a cliff and he got stuck on a tree branch at the last second and he was dangling and he almost fell, and at the last second they came, they saved him. He says, Rabbi, God saved me. The rabbi says to him, who do you think pushed you off the cliff in the first place? I pushed you off the cliff in order to save you, so that you'll understand that nobody else can save you but me. I just want to end off with a mashal that I heard from one of my rebbes years ago. This is something fantastic. It's a mashal, I believe it's brought in the Ben Ish Chai as well. I remember once seeing it, but I heard this from one of my rebbes. There was a princess that was on the way to another kingdom, and she was going through a forest. And there were these bandits that came, and they hijacked her army, they killed her guards, and now they surrounded her carriage, her royal carriage. And they pulled the princess out forcefully. And the head of the bandits, he told the princess that this is it, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to send a message to your father, the king, that my group of bandits were stronger than his army, and we killed the princess, and we are, you know, the power bandits. He was about to kill her, and just then they hear in the distance horses, and they see that there's this neighboring king from a different city that happened to have been coming through the forest at that time. And as he's coming through the forest, he sees that this princess is screaming for her life. The king pulls towards the bandits, he jumps off, and he pulls out his sword, and him and his men start fighting the bandits. And he kills them, and he saves the princess. And he says, Princess, I saved your life. I'm going to return you now back to your father, the king of your city, of your country. And I want you to just do me one favor in return. I only ask for one thing. That we're going to kill you. I saved your life. I just ask for your hand in marriage. You're a princess, I'm a king. I ask for your hand in marriage. She says, Your Majesty, you saved my life. And I would love to marry you. But the problem is, I'm already betrothed. I'm already engaged to another prince of a different country. And I already gave my word. And therefore, as much as I want to, I'm sorry I can't. The king looked at her, but I saved your life. You would have been dead. But he saw she wasn't interested. He said, okay, you're not interested, you're not interested. So he tells his men, put her back on the carriage and escort her back to her kingdom. And that's what they did. They put her in her carriage. They escorted her back to her kingdom. A year or so later, this very princess was on her way through the same forest, but this time to her wedding. She was on her way to the prince. And as she's coming through the forest, would you believe it? A whole group of bandits jump down from the trees. They kill her soldiers. They open up her carriage and pull her out. And she's standing there in white, in her wedding gown. And the head bandit, with this whole get up of this of bag over his head, scary, walks up to her and picks her up. And he pulls out his knife and he's about to kill her. And she begins to scream, "Where is that king? That king that saved me last year when I was in the same position. He happened to have been coming through the forest. Where is that king? I need him now. Where is he?" And just as the bandit's about to kill her, she screams, "King, where are you?" And the bandit grabs the hood and pulls it off his head. And she sees it's the king, the one that saved her a year ago. She says, "What are you doing? Last year you saved me. And now you're the one that jumps my men. And you were about to kill me." Says the king, "I was willing to jump your men. I was willing to pull you out of the carriage. I was willing to put you in the position to scare you to such a position that you were in last year, just to hear you scream my name one more time. For that, it was already worth it. I just wanted you to hear, I just wanted to hear you scream for me, yell for me one more time." The whole thing is a mirage. The whole thing is just Klal Yisrael with the test of war. Do you think that you're fighting? We're going out to be able to take it out of the gather of Ness, to do what we need to do to make it look normal. But our hearts and our minds are relying on Abba and no one else. Anachnu biyadenu shel Abba. We are going to win this war. We're relying on Borei Olam. We're coming with the Torah of Panovich. We're coming with the Torah of Lakewood. We're coming with the Torah of Mir Yeshiva, both here and there. We're coming with the Torah of Klal Yisrael. We're coming with billions of hours of chesed. We're coming with gemachim in all over the world. We have a gemach these days for toothpicks. We have a gemach these days for anything you can imagine. We're coming with chesed. We're coming with tzedakah. We're going to blow them out of the water. But remember, it's not you. Anachnu biyadenu shel Abba. We're just going through the steps. But we're fighting the war in heaven. Throw us another Kabbalah. Throw us another mitzvah. So we can dispatch another angel, another fighter to the war in Shamayim. So he can make Oseh Shalom Bimromav. And then we'll see Aseh Shalom Aleinu. But this time the Shalom is not going to be peace. There's no peace with these people. This time Shalom is Hamelech Shalom. Shalom is another name of Hashem. It's going to bring Shalom. It's going to bring Kudsha B'richu back to Klal Yisrael. We want to see this Shavuot, Hashat, HaShekhinah, the way it was. The way Borei Olam came down on the mountain. And he came down with myriads of angels. Maybe this time he'll come down on the mountain of Meron, where it all started from this year. And he'll make his way back to the mountain of Moriah to build the final Bet HaMikdash B'karov. Anachnu biyadenu shel Abba en od milivado. Rabotai, Tehillim, Torah, Chazak. But remember the Rambam. Al yarach lebabchem. No fear. No fear. Fire! We'll be zocheh that this will finally be the last moments to the bringing of Mashiach B'karov. Amen.